Matthew. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And you're right. It is sex. I'm always surprised by that. I mean, we're in a big book study, right? So we want to study the big book and we want to make sure we're studying it properly and that we really understand this. And this inventory, it says now about sex. It's about sex. And then at the end, it mentions sex throughout the inventory, but then at the end, it actually refers to it as an imperious urge, right? When to yield would mean heartache, right? So I mean, I think they're really being serious. I don't think Wilson made a mistake when he put sex in there and he really meant relationships. I think relationships obviously are going to be affected by this. There's no doubt about that. But if I've been thorough about my resentment list and about my fears, my relationship inventory has already been covered in there. Now I want to take a look at sex and specifically sex, right? And I don't know about you guys, I'm only going to speak for myself, but I can tell you, I use sex like a drug, right? It's intoxicating, it's thrilling, it's fun, it's exciting, it's all sorts of things. But you may be on the other side of the spectrum, right? In here, it gives us a few different words, and these were the words that were coming to me during meditation. It says, he uses the word lightly, selfishly, nor to be despised or loathed, right? Now, I may be on the other side. I may, I don't know where you're at, but I'm not the kind that feels like that sex is the lust of our lower nature for babies only, for just and only procreation. I'm on this side where it's sex and more sex who bewail the institution of marriage. There's not enough of it and it ain't the right kind, right? That's me. That's where I am. But you may be on the other side where you're like, you're not that interested in sex. It's you despise it, you loathe it, and so on and so on. That doesn't mean that there isn't a sex problem there, right? That doesn't mean there isn't a sex problem there. Personally, I used to be fat and I used to eat a lot and I had an exercise problem. That meant that I didn't exercise. That was a problem, right? I needed to get active. So I had to incorporate this into my life and do this in a right way. And guess what? I got into shape and I exercise like a freak all the time. I'm always looking for it, right? So let's go back to where we were. And we were right in the middle of page 69. Okay. So there are 10 questions that need to be asked here, right? And they give it to us very, very clearly and very plainly. So one of the first things that one of my sponsors had me do was you write down, and this is what he told me, this is just me, this is my experience. He said you write down every woman, man, child, and or animal that you have been intimate with, or you have wanted to be intimate with, or you have attempted to be intimate with, or whether you could or you couldn't be intimate with, that you may have offended or made feel uncomfortable because of your desire. That list was long for me. When it broadened from just being intimate to being much larger to who you wanted to be intimate with, who you may have inappropriately flirted with, who you may have inappropriately gawked at, who you may have inappropriately made a comment to, that list expanded very, very quickly. It got big. In addition to that, we put down prostitutes, which included massage parlors, which included anything of that nature, right? Craigslist, Backpage, all of that stuff. Then it was porn, and whether it was legal porn, kitty porn. Yeah, that stuff is prevalent, man. I know people that check that stuff out. I'm not saying that, right, exactly, right? And then there is stuff that is even darker that is found and sought on the dark web, right? That's the truth. That's the reality of this situation, right? I learned a lot about my sex, about myself, and about sex going through this inventory. So the first thing I did was I listed all of that stuff to the very best of my ability. Did I have every single name? No, but I can tell you, woman, red bow in her hair, drove a Corvette, don't remember her name, but it was a hot 2.5 hours, right? So write that down. Stupid stuff like that. There was plenty of it, right? In my 20s, 65-year-old woman, right? In the bar, late, come on, right? There was all this stuff. You women aren't the only ones that woke up in the morning regretting your behavior the night before. I've been there. I have been there. So I got all of this stuff down. I put it all down on paper, and then I subjected each and every single one of these situations to these following 9 questions because I've just answered the one of the questions. Whom did I hurt? So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to subject it to where had I been selfish? Where had I been dishonest? Where had I been inconsiderate? I'm going to give you a mild one, okay? As an example, there was a girl that I dated, and I liked her. I liked her. but I wasn't in love with her, right? And I had zero intentions of marrying her. Now, this is what happened in the beginning. I knew that she was looking for marriage. I knew that's what she wanted, and I knew that's what she wanted from me. And she told me that pretty early on in the relationship. So I sat her down and I had the heart to heart with her. And I said, sorry, it's never going to happen. I'm not going to marry you. I will never marry you. And her response was, okay, I can live with that. Now, here's the deal. I knew she couldn't live with that. Now, the right thing for me to do would have been to get up and walk away, to cut her loose. But I knew what was really going on was that I can live with that for now, but I'm secretly going to hold on to this hope that I can change you down the road. And I knew that's what was going on. Now, I said, that's on her. She's the one who's doing that, not me. I'm not twisting her arm, but that's not true. I knew what was going on. So for me, that when I asked this question, where had it been dishonest? The dishonesty is that I knew that what she was telling me wasn't the truth. I knew this. And when she tells me she can live with this, I said, okay, good. I accept that. I knew that she couldn't live with that. I knew that and I was being dishonest about my motives in that relationship, right? You see, because what I told her was, I do want to be with you. I'm just not the marrying type. But that wasn't true. I had another woman that held my heart, right? This woman was a place saver. That's what was going on. Now, do you think I'm going to tell her that? No, because she was tall, she was hot, she was sexy, and she was willing, and we had fun together. I am not going to forego that while I'm waiting for this other one to come around, right? That's the truth. So was that honest? No, it was incredibly dishonest when I told, if I were to tell her, listen, I'm just using you. I'm just using you for your body and for your willingness. Dishonest. Was it inconsiderate? Absolutely, because I knew right where her feelings were. I knew exactly what she wanted, but my motives were something else. It was lust. That's why I was there, right? Was it selfish? You bet it was. I wasn't thinking about her. I was only thinking about myself. That's the truth. Whom did we hurt? Well, I already know. We already listed her. Okay. Did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, and bitterness? You bet. I can tell you this. She started to suspect that there was somebody else that was holding in my heart, and I would lie to her. Now, could I justify arousing that type of jealousy, that type of bitterness, and that type of suspicion? There's no way for me to justify that. The only way that I could justify it was in my own head, was that we had this conversation before. I'm not going to marry you. That's the way I was justifying it, but that's not justifiable. Now, there's other things that I did while I was with her. I would go out and I'm a notorious flirt. Not anymore, but I was then. Could I justify flirting with other women right there in front of her? Checking out other women right there in front of her? No, there was no way I could justify it other than saying it's biological and I'm a male. But then that falls right back into being dishonest, inconsiderate, and selfish, right? I continuously just tick off these boxes over and over and over again, right? And I continuously arouse this jealousy, this suspicion, and this bitterness. There were other things that I was doing too. I wasn't loyal to her in a relationship. There were nights that I would claim that I wasn't feeling well. And she was like, well, you're just feeling well a little while ago. What happened? This is awfully sudden. And I'm like, it is very sudden. I think I should just go home and get a good night's sleep. But that wasn't the truth, was that I noticed what time it was and that I needed to get out of there because I had a date, right? So I would lie and I would leave and I would cheat on her, right? I don't know if this is sounding, if it's hitting home for anybody here. But this is the way that I operated. So where was I at fault? Well, I was a liar. I was a liar right from the very get-go when I went into that relationship with her, right? I didn't tell her honestly, straight up in the beginning what my motives were. I was completely dishonest. I was completely dishonest. If I had told her, listen, I'm here for one thing and one thing only, sex, and then when I get bored of you, I'm going to look for it from somewhere else. Do you think that she was going to be a willing participant in that relationship? I don't think so. I don't think so. So what I had to do is I had to string it along. Now, were my motives? Did I think it through this clearly? No, it's only in retrospect that I look back and I'm able to see how I was truly operating. When I get out the scalpel and I trim away all the BS and I get right down to the truth, that's how I was operating. That's how I was operating. Now, did we have fun? Did we go out to dinner? Did I buy her things? Did we do those things? Of course, all of those things happen. And it appeared as though It appeared as though that it was an honest relationship, but that's not what it was, right? So where were we at fault? I've already listed many of the ways where I was at fault. Now, what should I have done instead? What I should have done instead is I should have said, listen, this isn't going to work. I cannot continue to date you knowing that these are the feelings that you have, knowing that this is what you want for your future, and that my future desires do not align with yours. And I should have been man enough to walk away. I also should have been man enough to walk away and say, listen, my heart actually belongs to another woman. That's where I really want to be. And I should have been honest with her about that as well and just walked away. But I didn't do that, right? I didn't do that. And there was an underlying thing. It was the sex. That's the truth. The other things that I'll talk about a little bit is about some of it may come off as funny, and I definitely laughed about it. When I was going through my inventory while I was writing it down myself, and I laughed about it with my sponsor when we did the fifth step. I got introduced to pornography at a very, very young age, at like 7 to 8 years old. It started off with the Playboys in the house. My brothers had them. I'm sneaking into the room. I'm checking them out. And then I remember one time I snuck one out of my brother's room and I have it in my room. And I hear my mother coming down the hallway. And I got to tell you, my mother is the one that's on the other side of the track. She is like, sex is for procreation, babies. That's it. So when she finds a Playboy, I'm telling you, there is hell to pay in this household. The roof comes off that house. And I got to tell you, I mean, we laugh about it now, and even my mom will laugh about it now. But the thing is that I steal it from my brother's room, then I have it in my room. I get caught with it. I want to throw my brother under the bus for it, and so on, and I get in trouble for it. Now, here's the thing: you would think that that would be enough. The punishment that I got enough would be enough, but it's not. See, I'm sneaking this stuff into the house all the time. I was so motivated by this stuff, and some of this may just be normal biological male stuff as a child going through, hormones and all of this stuff. But this is where I was at. There were two things that I really enjoyed doing with my mom. Friday afternoons, she would go to the grocery store. She would go to two grocery stores. She'd start off at the shop right down the road, and then she would go to the Pennington Quality Market because they had different prices on different things, and she was saving money over there. And what I liked about it is over at the ShopRite, there was a liquor store right next door. And I loved going into that liquor store and looking at all the different liquor bottles. And there were these guys on Friday, they would get their paycheck and they'd sit outside and they'd sit in their car and drink their beers. And I would hang out with them, man. I would sit out there and talk with them. I'd ask them what they were drinking. Can I have your bottles and all of this stuff? I was just obsessed with liquor. Then we would go down the road to the Pennington Quality Market, and right next door was a pharmacy. And I got to tell you, they had a fantastic magazine section, right? And it was set up so perfectly that if I stepped close enough, I could pick that magazine off, get a peek, and look back, make sure that the pharmacist knew exactly what I was doing. Every once in a while, he'd look up and I'd look at him and I'm like, I'm busted. And he would just smirk and shake his head and he would put it back, right? Then I got introduced to video pornography, and that set me off on this run, man. I got so excited about that stuff that I'm telling you, at 15 years old, I stole a car to go down to the video store, and I argued with the guy that I was 18 years old and I just didn't have my physical license, that I was old enough to rent this stuff. And finally, he just gave in. It was like, fine, just take it. Just take it. And here's the thing. It was a really obnoxious video, right? Obnoxious. Now, I didn't have access to a car to get it back on time, so this thing is late. So they call the house and they leave a message on the voicemail saying, this title is late. And my mom was like, what kind of filth is that? Oh my God. She calls him up. Don't you dare call my house with that filth. You got the wrong house. She just lit this poor guy up left and right. I did that. I did that. I'm dying inside. And I'm like, I got to get this video out of the house as quickly as possible because she finds it. She's going to break my head with it, right? This is where it was at, right? Then so, but I grow up with this, and there's some shame, and there's some guilt, and I got to sneak around because sex is wrong, it's bad, and I shouldn't. I'm getting molded by this stuff, not intentionally, but it's like my mom wants me to be a good guy. She's not raising me to look at this stuff. She's raising me to not look at this stuff, right? But what happens is it starts to formulate these ideas about what I think about women and how women should be objectified, and so on and so on. I know, and I've talked to other people about this, and I know it goes the other way too. So it started this thing for me that I had that imperious urge, right? And I didn't know to yield. I didn't know how to yield. I didn't know that I should yield. I just thought that it was okay. If there's another person who's willing, let's do it. Let's rock and roll. I don't care if I'm in a relationship, you're in a relationship, married, not, doesn't matter, right? I didn't consider anybody else who was involved. I didn't consider other spouses. I didn't consider any of these things. I only thought about myself and I was driven by it. And if I'm going to be honest with you, when I came to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, it was short skirts and the smell of perfume that kept me coming around for a while. That's the truth, right? I came for the chicks. That's the God's honest truth. I'm not going to lie to you, right? So these were the things. So in one weird way, it kind of kept me alive. It kept me coming to AA so God could finally get to me. And eventually he got to me. Now here's something that I did learn and that I did discover that I wasn't really happy about. As a teenager, I would spend a lot of time in New York City, right? And Rudy Giuliani made it on my inventory list under resentments because he cleaned up 42nd Street. He destroyed a lot of the fun that I was having up there, right? And I did not like that. I was peeved, like to no end, right? And so you guys get the gist of what was going on up there. And I was up there regularly. And this is what I learned, and it was really, really disturbing to me. My wife had this book. My wife, she's a voracious reader, and there were these books hanging around. This is back when we were dating, and so tons of books. And I just happened to pick this book up, and the title, I forget what it was, but the word sex was in it. So I was like, hey, hubba hubba. So I'm starting to read this thing. And what I discovered here was something that was really, really disturbing to me. It was more about prostitution, sex trafficking, human slavery, and so on and so on. And what I discovered was the difference between consensual sex and compliant sex, right? And this really landed on me, hit home. And it totally changed the way that I saw everything that I was doing through my teenage years and my early 20s up in New York City. Was that all those women that I interacted up there with, I thought that that this was compliant. I thought that this is what they wanted to be doing. I thought that they chose to be in this position. They chose to be in that industry, and that when they would put their hand on my chest and tell me that I'm sexy and cute and hot, and they desired me and all of this stuff, I believed all of that garbage, right? First off, that's just my ego, right? But I'm also that naive as well. But when I went through this, what I discovered is that was not consensual sex. What that was compliant sex. That those women had men that they were working for, and if they didn't earn, they were going to be in really, really deep trouble. In some cases, maybe their family members are going to be in deep trouble. Their family members may be harmed. They themselves may be harmed. They had a job to do, not necessarily what they wanted to do, but they were complying with the orders of their boss, right? So when I started to look at that, it was no longer just about fun. Now I got to run this through this inventory a different way and take a look at it and run all of these questions through it again. And now I see how I put these women in danger. Not only did I put them in danger, I kept that industry alive and well. I kept it thriving. It was because of men like me that people were falling into those traps and becoming enslaved and, being harmed and so on and so on. I did not like that. I did not like that. That was something that fell away from me the moment I saw that. I was just like, I want no part of that anymore. No part of that whatsoever. So today, I still go into New York City and I see these situations and I see some of these women. It's not as prevalent as it used to be. It's definitely darker and more covered up now. But when I see these things, one of the things that I think about is that woman right there. That woman has got a mother and a father somewhere, and she is their baby. That's someone's baby right there. And somebody is heartbroken over this situation, right? And when I look at it like that, do I want to be a part of that? Do I want to be something that's going to continue, perpetuate that? No, I don't. I don't want anything to do with that, right? Let me see where my time is. Okay. So I got about 6 minutes here. So, but I don't want to get ridiculous and overreact to all of these things. To that stuff, that's not ridiculous. That's an appropriate reaction to want to not have anything to do with this. So I want to continue reading this so we can get through the rest of this sex inventory. It says we reviewed our own sex conduct over the past years. Where had we been selfish, dishonest, inconsiderate? Whom had we hurt? Did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? Where were we at fault? What should we have done instead? I can tell you in all of those cases, what I should have done instead was to abstain, to walk away, to not be a part of it, right? That is for sure. We got all of this down on paper and we looked at it. It says, in this way, we tried to shape a sane and sound ideal for our future sex life. Now, I want to be really clear. It says our future sex life, meaning your own, specifically your future sex life. I was in a meeting the other day and I was floored when this person talked about it. And I hate to do it. And I'm not going to, they talked about their ideal person that they wanted in their life. And that they were right, exactly. You guys get it, And I sat there and I think, gosh, you're in a big book study and you're missing it. You're totally mangling. That's not what this is about. This is about who am I going to be? How am I going to show up? What's my future sex life going to be? Right. And I'm asking God to help shape and mold this. Right. This isn't about me. I already have my ideal down on paper. Right. My ideal doesn't work. My ideal causes a lot of harm, causes a lot of pain. Right. I need something else. So it said we subject each relation to this test. Was it selfish or was it not? Is this selfish or is it not? Am I in this relationship with this person honestly? Am I approaching this person honestly? Right? Or do I have a secret motive? Of course, I'm going to like my wife. I find if I were to meet my wife today, yeah, I find her very attractive. And of course, I would approach her with an interest, but it wouldn't be the same type of motivation of like, oh, I can't wait to get this woman in the sack. I would say, wow, she's incredibly attractive. Perhaps she's really intelligent and we can have a nice conversation. Maybe we have things in common. Maybe we can, have a relationship where we can talk and be friends and so on and so on, which would emerge into something else. I don't know, right? But that would be part of my ideal. Today, my ideal is that I am in my relationship with my wife and our sex life is none of your darn business. But I can tell you this, what it really is, it's honest and it's not selfish and it's sane and neither one of us feel guilty or ashamed of anything, right? That's the key. That was not the way that it was in the beginning of the relationship because I came in with that imperious urge, right? And I want all sorts of freaky sex. I want all sorts of stuff. And I'm telling you, this woman is a proper Quaker school, private school, prep school girl that is not down with all of that stuff. And I know she's like, who is this guy that I'm dating, right? I learned how to shape this sane, sound sex ideal through prayer and through inventory and through asking myself, am I being selfish right now? Am I being inconsiderate? Am I being dishonest with her? Are my motives for doing this for her that I'm hoping that she's going to give me a reward later? Right? So on and so on. And that's the thing that we learn through going through this is that I can use sex lightly or I can overuse it. I can use it as a reward. I can use it as a punishment. I can use it as my motivation to be kind, thoughtful, and considerate to other people, hoping that I'm going to get it in return, which means the kind, thoughtful, and considerate was just BS now, right? Because really why I was doing it was my motivation was for this. So today I can tell you I do things for my wife expecting zero in return. I literally have a policy. My policy with her is this. If she were to ever cheat on me, that is A-okay. I don't want to know about it. I don't want to know about it. I don't. I don't think she would, but if she felt that she needed to do that, by all means, you do what you got to do. I don't want to know. It's none of my business. I don't want to be involved in. Now, if you want to come up and you want to tell me that you're going to leave me for another man, please do it very, very quickly. Just do it, rip it off, and get out. Right? Don't string me along. See, because I have been a notorious cheater, but the thing is that through my cheating, I have learned so much about who I am not and who I want to be. And through that ugliness of all of that, it's molded and shaped me to this person that I am today that I wouldn't think there's no way I would cheat on my wife. Just not going to happen. It simply is not going to happen. Now, if she had to have one of those instances in her own life where she went out and it totally just made her realize how in love she is with me and how devoted she is to me and how she wants to be with me, perfectly well worth it. I'm glad she had that experience and I don't need to know about it. Right? I don't know if that makes sense, but that's where I'm at with my sex relationship, my ideal with God today. I'm not here to be the arbiter of her sex conduct either, right? She's going to do what she's going to do, and that's A-okay by me. Now, when I say that, I want you to know I used to be an insanely jealous, I'm talking turn the furniture over jealous, right? I'm talking about rip the door off the hinges jealous. That no longer exists for me today. We were at a party not too long ago, and there was a guy who wanted to dance with my wife, and I just sat there and I just watched because I knew what was going to happen. I know he's going to get shot down, but he is working that angle so hard. And the thing is that years ago, I would have gotten jealous thinking, my God, she's going to leave me for him and blah, 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 blah. I'm going to want to fist fight him out in the parking lot and all of this stuff and claim my woman. No, no, man. God's got me. God's got this marriage. God's got this whole situation. I'm not worried about it for a second. And then when he finally worked up the nerve to say, hey, and put his hand out, she's like, hello, did you not see this right here? This is my husband right there. And he looks at me and his face went beet red. And he was like, why didn't you say, like, we were talking. Why didn't you say something? I said, you had to shoot your shot, bro. It's okay. It's no big deal. And we ended up laughing about it. It's not a big deal, right? Right. But there was a time when that wasn't the case. I got to wrap this up really quick because the time is almost over. So this is what it says. We subjected each relationship, was it selfish or not? We asked God to mold our deals to help us live up to them. We remembered always that our sex powers were God given, therefore good. These things are good, neither to be used lightly or selfishly, nor to be despised or loathed. Whatever our Mm. Can I finish that part? Thank you. Whatever our ideal turns out to be, we must be willing to grow toward it. We must be willing to make amends where we have done harm, provided that we do not bring about still more harm in doing so. In other words, we treat sex as we would any other problem. In meditation, please notice that the word meditation is now being mentioned in the fourth step, right? In the fourth step. It's early. It's not just in the 11th step. We're starting it here, guys. We ask God that in meditation, we ask God what we should do about each specific matter. The right answer will come if we want it. Can I read this last little bit? Okay. God alone can judge our sex situation. Counsel with other persons is often desirable, but we let God be the final judge. We realize that some people are as fanatical about sex as others are loose. We avoid hysterical thinking or advice. Suppose we fall short of the chosen ideal and stumble. Does this mean we're going to get drunk? Some people tell us so, but this is only a half truth. It depends upon us and our motives. If we are sorry for what we have done and have the honest desire to let God take us to better things, we believe we will be forgiven and will have learned our lesson. If we are not sorry and our conduct continues to harm others, we are quite sure to drink. We are not theorizing. These are facts out of our experience. Guys, take a look around. If you've been around long enough, I'm telling you, you've seen people come in and out of AA because of sex problems. I've seen it, I don't know how many times in a relationship, it breaks up, whatever it is, they get exposed and they are gone, right? To sum up about sex, we earnestly pray for the right ideal, for guidance in each questionable situation, for sanity and for the strength to do the right thing. If sex is very troublesome, we throw ourselves the harder into helping others. We think of their needs and work for them. This takes us out of ourselves and quiets the imperious urge when to yield would mean heartache. I apologize for going so long. I should have exercised better time management. There you go. Thank you.